Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 216. And today is a bit of a breathe, a bit of a catch-up episode for both Pete and myself. We have had guests on for the last 6 weeks in a row. I will remind you of those guests in a minute once I've had a catch-up with Pete quickly. And then we're just going to be sort of talking back over some of those guests, some of the things that we've maybe taken from those guests, and some of the stuff that we've learned, some of the stuff that we're doing at the moment with ourselves and with our clients, and things that are going on as we move into the autumn, well and truly into the autumn. Because if you are listening today on the day of release, it is Friday the 18th. I think it's Friday the 18th of October, Pete.
I've no idea, mate. You're saying we've had like guests on for the last 6 weeks. It feels like it's been more like 3 weeks to me.
No, it's been 6
But,
weeks. Let's have a quick look. So yes, this is going to be, this is good. So it's who is it this week coming out? It is Del Wilson coming out this week, the 24th. Stevie Shanks. Del Wilson, the 27th. Stevie Shanks on the 4th. Claire Rafferty on the 11th. Yes, it is the 18th of October today. Anyway, you just heard him there. Mr. Peter Lant is in Bath. He said he's done everything he needs to do today. And he doesn't have to leave the house again because it's chucking it down with rain here in England, across much of England, I think. So he's now getting cozy and doing the podcast, and he's gonna have a lovely warm rest of the day in his house in Bath. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. We had the final summer walk, evening walk. So we've been doing walks on Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock, and we had the final one last night because it's getting too dark, and it was chucking it down all day, and then it stopped raining about an hour before the start, and then it was lush. So yeah, so we were quite fortunate with that because I didn't fancy getting wet again. But there you go.
Excellent. No, it's yeah. I mean, the weather's going to change now, isn't it? And like I think we said on the last podcast when we were talking with Claire, that you're a 12 months of the year outdoor person, aren't you? So you're training outdoors with you guys, in the park doing your classes and things. You're walking, obviously, is a big part of what you do as well. So yeah, and we actually had a nice well, I might as well we'll say now, it's not set up yet, but we had a nice email yesterday talking about walking.
Yes.
That we've potentially that we've been, it's kind of like a dream guest really, that are called Mark Sisson, who I'm sure many of you might be aware. Mark really, he was uh an elite level Ironman triathlete back in, I want to say, like the 80s, the 90s. I think he's in his 70s now, in his 70s years of age. And he has written loads of books. One that really kind of, I suppose, changed my thinking a while ago, called Primal Blueprint. I mean, it was written probably 15 years ago, maybe now. And we had a lovely email about Mark's new book that he's written called Born to Walk, and seeing if we could set up a podcast to have him on. Now, he's like a dream guest that I would have loved to have on. Well, but he's been on Joe Rogan a couple of times. He's been on Mark Bell's Power Project.
Yep.
He's kind of like a big person within the health and fitness and wellness space. And yeah, so hopefully we will be speaking to him soon about his new book. So I know you were happy to hear that, Pete, weren't you?
Sounds right up my street. I mean, he was talking about it when he was on the Mark Bell podcast. I watched that one, and he was talking about walking and stuff like that, and how he doesn't really do endurance stuff anymore, and it's he's just more into walking because it's like it's good for you. And I was like, God bless you.
Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, we might have some news in the next few weeks about getting Mark onto the podcast. I mean, we've had Mark's sort of writing partner, I suppose you'd call him, Brad Kearns. We've had Brad on
Yeah.
a couple of times, haven't we? Who's also fantastic. But Mark is the guy who kind of pioneered the whole primal paleo kind of what do they call it? ancestral health kind of movement, going back to basics and kind of just trying to strip things away and live more naturally. And that involves all the kind of, minimalist footwear, barefoot, simple eating habits, non-processed foods, getting out in the fresh air, walking, running, exercising outside, moving your body, all those kind of basic stuff, that kind of ancestral health movement. He was one of the pioneers. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some news in the next few weeks on that, which is great. But today we are going to be talking about a few different things, including a bit of a debrief on the Britain's Disabled Strongman, Strongwoman that Pete and I both were at a couple of weeks back, helping on the loading crew, along with Alex and Nicole Bennett as well. But the guests that we've had on recently, just to refresh your memory. Now, I know lots of you do listen every single week, and you may have missed some of the recent ones, hopefully not, but there's going to be something, if you have, that you might want to go back and listen to. So last week we had Claire Rafferty on, which was episode 215, all about high rocks and kind of that kind of training, and how she's heavily involved in the high rocks sport and the kind of business and the coaching behind the scenes. Episode 214, we had Stevie Shanks on, talking all about stone lifting and the Dinnie stones and strength, old school strength, odd lifts as he called them, which was great. And then Stevie actually was featured in the documentary, the new documentary called Stones, which we might touch on today as well, which I've watched, and I know Pete will be watching at some stage. The week before that, episode 213, we had Del Wilson on, always talking about kettlebell sport. And he started off in a bodybuilding background, then went into endurance running, then moved into kettlebell sport. The week before that was Aidan O'Flaherty, the Irish physio, all about running and running related injuries and strengthening yourself for running. The week before that, Alan Willis from Australia, which was quite a traumatic episode, really, honest, down to earth, traumatic episode, where he was talking about substance abuse and, addiction of drugs and alcohol and things, and then kind of moving past that and chronic pain. And the week before that, we were talking to Gary Clark, which brings us full circle, about the Britain's Disabled Strongman. So hopefully you can see, just going back over those 6 guests, the last 6 guests are really varied, different people. And that's what I was saying to Pete actually before we came on. I've got a list of about 30 to 40 names of guests that we want to have on the show. And I try to, if possible, mix up a mixture of male and female guests, and guests from all different kind of walks of life and types of training and all the rest of it. So that's what we try and do on the podcast. And if there are guests that you'd like us to have on that we haven't had on before, please do, comment, leave us a message, ping us a message, and let us know if you've got some good ideas for guests. Anyway, Pete, that was a good update there.
Anyway, thanks for coming.
Anyway, thanks for coming. So let's touch on then the first thing. Like we said, way back, this is episode 216. 6 weeks ago, we spoke to Gary Clark, and we were talking about Britain's Disabled Strongman and Strongwoman at Brunel University, which we both were at, and we were both working on the loading crew. How was that weekend for you? Because it was the second year that we've done it. How was that for you?
I loved it. It was a lot slicker this time, and there was more athletes involved. It was just great. And also we got to spend, because last time where we stayed in that hotel, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we all went down that Spoons, didn't we, in Chard?
Yes.
But this time it was like more like all the athletes were all staying in the same place, and we were all staying in the same place and everything, because everything kind of like split up in Chard, didn't it? But this was it was just really nice to spend time with like a bunch of people, even with like Stevie, with Mike, over from Miami, with
Big John Williams,
with Matt, from like the Strength Collective,
Matt Diamond, and
all these people who are kicking around, and it's just great because everyone's there for the same reason, aren't they? So they just want to see it grow. They want to see the sport grow, which is tricky because, like you were saying, it's a niche within it. The other day, you were saying with Stevie, weren't you? It's a
Mm.
niche within a niche
Mm.
within a niche almost.
Yeah.
So it's just good to get it out there, I think, because these people are so inspirational. It's like Lee Freeman, who listens to the podcast, and he's one of my online clients. So he's only an hour up the road. So I mentioned it to him to get on the loading crew, and he got in touch with Gary. And rather Gary got in touch with him within about 30 seconds when I mentioned it to Gary. And he came along and he was just like, sign me up for next year. He said, this is amazing. It's amazing. It's life changing just being
Mm.
there,
Mm.
and I felt that last year. I didn't feel it so much this year because I've seen it before. But still, it's like, it's something I want to be involved in for much longer because it's really good to see, and if it inspires, is it Phoebe, the lass who did the deadlift last year?
I think so. Yeah, the young girl.
She
Yeah.
she is going to be doing a demonstration at the Worlds as well in November, which you're going to. I can't actually go, can I? But she's going to be at that as well. I saw that on Instagram today. So like there's kids getting inspired by it and stuff like that. So it's just really nice to see.
I mean, it was great, wasn't it? Because it was on, just to remind people, it was on the campus of Brunel University, and it was in their indoor athletics arena, which was a fantastic setup. And there was a hotel within the campus, which was only a 2 or 3 minute walk away from the arena. So it was great because you just got there. We sort of parked the car and you just walked back and forth, didn't we? And had obviously a drink and lunch and dinner and stuff and breakfast in the hotel, and it was also local. It was great, and the facilities were great. And I think Gary's going to try and get back there again next year, from what I understand. And the only thing would be great would be just to have some more kind of spectators, supporters there, because it was still a bit, kind of, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it was a bit sort of thin on the ground of people there to
Yeah,
watch. Obviously, you had sort of friends and family of the competitors there, but it was a free event to go and watch, and it was incredible. And hopefully, we can, somehow together, next year, get a few more people along to watch, because like you say, it's such a great event, and there's such great people you can meet there, and you're so close to the action, you're so close to it all. Yeah, hopefully we can get a few more people next year, maybe.
well, that's exactly what's great about it, because like strongman events and stuff, you go to them, it costs you however much money, and you're in a huge arena.
Mm.
This is like, it costs you nothing,
Mm.
and you get to meet everybody,
Yeah.
because you can chat to the athletes, if because you pay for VIP tickets and all
Mm.
this sort of stuff, don't you, for the other events? And it's like with this one, everyone's got a VIP ticket for
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
And like, and if it's at Brunel again next year, I mean, getting there, I got the train from Bath to Paddington. I left the house at just before midday, and I was there before 3 o'clock. So
I was going to
it took
say
me about
that.
3 hours door to door,
Yeah.
literally. And because it was the train to Paddington, and then it's like 50 minutes from Paddington to Uxbridge, which is the end of the line, and then it's a mile walk.
Mm.
So I just walked up there. It took me like 20 minutes from the tube station, and I was there. So if anyone lives in London, or Greater London or whatever, to get the tube in and back out again, it's super easy to get to.
Mm.
And it finishes at like what it finished at like 3 o'clock, so it's not like you're going to get back late or anything like that. But you can even afterwards, you could go to the hotel and have a drink with the athletes and stuff like that. It's like
Yeah.
it's that close, isn't it? Which is, like I say, in years to come, when it's in big arenas, we'll be like, oh, anyway, it's fine.
Yeah, no, it was really, really good. No, it was fantastic. And yeah, and then obviously on the back of that, we met Stevie Shanks, who was on the loading crew as well, who's fantastic, who we had on the podcast a couple of weeks back. And then he talked about the new documentary, Stones, that was made by Maximum Iron. And actually, a couple of days ago, I think Tuesday, I had my day off of work, and I downloaded that. It was only, I think it was $9.99 to download, and it's a proper hour and 50-minute documentary, and it's the the rise and fall and rise of Scottish stone lifting. And when we spoke to David Keogh in Indiana Stones, he talked about like a map with all the stones that you have in the documentary. Basically is going around a map of Scotland, and it's looking at all of the major kind of lifting stones there, and talking a little bit about the history of each, and then you're seeing people lifting them, and the stories behind them, and you know how much they all weigh and the techniques you use for them. And it was really, really good. And obviously a lot of it was based on the or not a lot of it, but there was a section on the Dinny Stones, you know, and it's got like Luke Stoltman on it, Tom Stoltman, Harry Stoltman, obviously Stevie, you know, Lawrence Charlet, all these guys in it as well, which was fantastic. So no, if you haven't watched that, which I think we did mention it on the Stevie Shanks podcast, but that's a really, really good. If you're interested in that kind of thing, just to download that and watch that. Stones, the rise, fall, and rise of Scottish stone lifting, which was great.
And what was funny was I saw your video. Was that from the Stones documentary of you pressing?
Yeah,
Pressing an Atlas stone. Yeah. Honestly, I was like, "God, that looks dicey." Because if that slips, you're out.
Yeah,
like
it's not something I would do with anyone, any of my clients at all. But I'd watched it. It's quite interesting because they do this. It's got old Martins Lissis as well, who was the world's strongest man a few years ago. He's on the Scottish stone lifting tour, and he's obviously one of the strongest men in the world. So they've got these stones, and like Stevie said, and like we've mentioned before, I think with David Keown as well, there's different levels that you can get to. One is just, you know, getting the wind underneath the stone and just picking it off the floor. And then one is getting it onto your lap, and then one's getting it to your chest, and one's getting it to the shoulder. And then obviously the most challenging, which you can't do with all stones, but is then pressing it overhead. And it was really interesting because they were doing like David Keown said, Indiana Stones, when he's going to start doing these stone tours of Ireland. And you take groups of people round to these different places. And they said that you might have a group of 6 or 8 people, and for someone, it might be their goal just to get it off the ground. And if they just get it off the ground and get the wind underneath it, they're all cheering, and you know it's high fives and hugging them and all the rest of it. But for someone else who's a lot stronger, they might be trying to get it to their shoulder, you know. But they said whatever level each person's at, they're really cheering and supporting each other and getting excited about it. And yeah, Martin's Lissis is I think there's a certain stone that had never been pressed properly overhead, and he gets it up to his chest, and then he presses it, and he does it and he puts it on the floor, and he does it for about 3 or 4 reps, I think. And then I thought, I'm going to try that with the Atlas stone, but the stone obviously is like totally spherical and quite smooth. So
yeah.
you kind of get it. I got it up to my chest, and then as soon as you start pressing, you realize this is going to be really hard to control. Because you know, and it's interesting. This might bore some people, but you'll like appreciate it, and some people will appreciate it. When you do kettlebell pressing, I was kettlebell pressing earlier. When you do a lot of it, when you actually press, you want the forearm to be vertical, so that you know you're pressing in a straight line up. And you couldn't press. I'm just moving my forearm across my body at an angle, like a 45-degree angle. You couldn't really press a heavy kettlebell with the arm in that position. And Paul had I think I sent Paul the videos, or he saw my video, and he messaged me and said, because the stone was a 40-kilo stone, so it wasn't like a heavy stone. But I thought in my mind before I started it, I thought, well, I'll do a few with the 40, then I'll do the 50, then I'll try the 60. And but literally I got the 40, I got the 40 up, and because like it's quite a small stone. It's probably like the size. It's like the size of a beach ball or something. You know what I mean? It's about the size of a beach ball. You know, it's bigger than a football, but like a beach ball, maybe. So you have to grip it, obviously, from the sides, so it doesn't slip out from your hands and drop on your head or whatever. So by pressing it like that, my forearms are out at an angle, you know.
Yeah.
So you get to a point, and I couldn't lock out. I got to about that position, and I really wanted to lock and get my head through like you would do with a barbell or a double kettlebells. And I just physically couldn't straighten my arms any more than that. without, I suppose, then your hands would come apart and you drop the stone on your head. So and then Paul said, oh yeah, to press it, you've really got to try and get your hands under, get your elbows almost together, so your forearms are straight, vertical, but then you'll be holding it and it'll be more like a tricep press, which will be really difficult, but you won't physically be able to lock your elbows the way that you're pressing it. And then he kind of said, and I said, oh, maybe I'll just get them to my shoulder. And he said, yeah, probably it's not worth the risk of trying to press them overhead, those, because natural stones have obviously got like bits of angles and bits of ledges that you can
I
kind
was
of get
going
a
to
hold
say they'll
of.
be
Yeah,
probably be flatter and wider. The
yeah.
ones you press anyway, like the Investone, you might not press that because it's more.
Well, a few people have, because Bill Kazmaier is the first one to press it, and then
Yeah.
a few others have. But I mean, these are the strongest men
What
in the
was the other one? The
world.
Mingus stone, the one that's like glass. They were saying.
Yeah, it's by a
You know.
castle, isn't it? It's by the.
Yeah.
It's in the
But
film. Yeah, yeah.
but like the flatter ones and stuff. Then I mean, I'm saying it'll be easier. I mean, it's not easy, is it? But you know what I
No,
mean. It's like that's the thing. It's the biomechanics behind it all, and so just do
yeah.
it with one hand next time.
But I felt like, oh, okay, I could get it to my shoulder quite nicely, so I might just try shouldering them a bit. But no, that was fantastic. You watch these films and you see these guys doing it, and what was really interesting, I'm trying to think who was. Oh, Emma Gray, who also has bought the film and watched it. I saw her yesterday, and she said, and comment she made, she said, it's really interesting because with the stone lifting, you see what people look like. And on the film, there's lots of different people doing it. And some of them are obviously like massive, like, bear type men, big barrel chested and huge arms and everything. And then there's other people who kind of look almost like they don't train, or almost just they're not massive people. They're just and sometimes some people you look at a person, you think, oh, they'll lift it easy, and they really struggle, and then someone else who doesn't look nearly as strong can do it more
Yeah.
easily because like, I suppose like with like Stevie was saying about his dad Jack, just big hands, manual work, just
Have you
good
seen his
grip
arms on that
strength.
photo?
Oh, what the Jack Shanks? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
His
yeah.
arms are massive.
I know, and he's only a fairly small man, isn't he? Like
Yeah.
70 something kilos, but just ripped to shreds, and strong and powerful grip, and like you said, big hands and all that sort of thing. So no, it's really interesting, and then
Well, this is what's great about it because, like, with a barbell or something, you can calibrate it to go. You're smaller and you weigh less, so it's a lighter bar and all of this sort of stuff. Whereas with the stones, it's not. It's just like, okay, he's bigger and stronger, so he'll lift it, or she'll lift it higher than you.
mm,
This person's a bit smaller, so you've just got to get the wind under it or whatever. And it doesn't always work out like that, like you say, because some smaller people are stronger and all of that.
mm,
But what's great about it, like you say, everyone's sitting around cheering is. Yeah, it's a different challenge for different people, and it doesn't
mm.
matter what the challenge is, as long as you do it, everyone will cheer you. And
Yeah,
that's what's great about it because it's kind of like inclusive rather than I can lift this weight, can you? No, right? I'm stronger than you, which doesn't tend to happen. I like
mm.
we all know that like in the world of strength, the stronger someone is, it tends to be the more helpful they are with you
Yeah,
when you're struggling.
exactly. I mean, yeah, that's a really interesting point. What you just raised. The last three guests that we've had on have been from three totally different areas of training, if you like. So Del Wilson,
Oh yeah, yeah.
kettlebell sport, and more kind of strength endurance. Then Stevie Shanks, more, odd lifts and stone lifting and, one hand deadlifts and old fashioned sort of strongman type lifting. And then last week, Claire Rafferty talking about high rocks, which is kind of 8 kilometers of 8 times 1 kilometers of running, with kind of sandwiched between, or with sandwiching between, sorry, the filling of the sandwich is like the strength exercises,
Good
like
analogy that. Well
yeah,
done.
I was trying to think. Yeah, well, if you think of like an eight layer club sandwich, with the
Yeah.
bread is the 1K runs, I suppose, and then you got the fillings in the middle is all the strength exercises.
I'm still
Um,
with you, James. Don't worry.
you're still with me. Everyone else has lost me, or I've lost
Everyone else
everyone.
is hungry now.
Gone to make a sandwich. But, so there's three very different ways of training there, but like you just mentioned, all three of those ways of training have got graded kind of entry points. And I know we spoke to Claire, didn't we, about the fact that you can, with a High Rocks, you could do it as a partner event, you could do it as a team event, you could do it as a relay. So the barrier to entry is lowered, with Del Wilson, with Kettlebell Sport. I know obviously at a certain level, when you start going to the national competitions, the international competitions and things, you probably need to have a minute. I don't know if you do need a minimum weight on the pentathlon. You certainly, I know you wouldn't get many points if you were using very light weights, but I mean, certainly for training in kettlebell sport and training with kettlebells, you can start with as light as you want, and gradually build up. And then with Stevie Shanks, like we mentioned, obviously the Dinny stones are like, they're 300 plus kilos, but but other types of stones, you can start with a pebble if you want. You can start with small stones and gradually. And I did actually think of trying to go to like you go to like builders merchants and stuff where they have these big granite stones, and you buy it by the kilo or whatever, and you can weigh it and get these. I thought I might try and go and have a look and see if I can get, or find some and just take them.
You just do what Dave did. Like people just started dropping them off. They've been like changing their, like doing vamping their gardens, haven't they?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we've got like a load of stone left over. Do you want it? And he was like, yeah, drop it off.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and they
what
were
I mean.
just
Those
dumping it in his garden.
big stones that people use for sort of like garden projects and stuff that you get, don't you? They've got these huge and building projects and things. But yeah, no, it was just it's
Or
really,
you just find one
really big.
somewhere in
Yeah,
a field and go
yeah.
back to it. Because David did that. He had that harp stone
Mm,
that was in the sea. And there was various other ones on beaches. He just identified these stones because they're not going anywhere, are they? So like you just go back
mm,
another day and they're there. I had some up on the sky. I stopped doing it. But there was some up on one of the walks that I do, and there was
mm.
some stones there, so I was lifting those
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Suppose I've got that Atlas stone sling as well. So if I ever wanted to pick one up and take it somewhere, or I don't know how you weigh them. I don't really know how you put it on some scales, I suppose. But yeah, it would be interesting, yeah, to maybe see about that. Oh, because we've been doing the older. Steph's been renovating the two stones from Gary this week as well.
All the best jobs.
A few. I washed them, and then she's done a few layers of like stone and tile sealant, and then tomorrow we're half PVA, half water, just to kind of coat them, and then hopefully I'll be able to use them at the weekend, the new ones. But try and get the 110 up. That'll be
What, above your head?
no onto the just off the floor. Off the floor would be good. Get the wind underneath it.
Yeah,
Would be good. Yeah, so Walk Bath is seems to be going from strength to strength at the moment as well, and you're wearing the merch. Lauren Emery, actually, she was in training. What day did I see Lauren training recently? Oh no, it might have been last week, last Friday actually. But she was wearing a black Walk Bath t-shirt. When
yeah. She's
training
got
at the
that. That's
gym.
this one,
Yeah,
but this is the old one.
yeah,
That's got the new logo there. The newer one
nice.
that David did, and this one as well. I'm
Yeah.
covered in it, man. That's all I've got.
And
But no,
how
it's
is
going well. I've been like chatting to kind of businesses around Bath and stuff like that as well. There's a mini hotel chain. There's a hotel here, and there's 3 in the chain, which is like a privately owned thing, I think. But there's 3 of them. But they've got their quarterly meeting in a couple of weeks here. So they got in touch and asked if I'd like take them for a walk, because I took some of the guys from there out for a walk around Bath. Because there's all these there's all the kind of like Bath's a historic city, World Heritage Site, lots of like Roman stuff and Georgian stuff and loads of stuff, just stuff everywhere. So you can get the tours around the city, which is great, but there's parts of the city that people don't see, like some of the parks, and then like you go down to the canal and like around there, and there's some nice bridges, which is the bridge design on here. There's a bridge across the canal that is like that, which are like from 1800 and were built in iron bridge.
Was that designed by Brunel, that bridge?
No.
Oh, because
No.
we had, just quickly, as a whole thought, but we were in the hotel room. And we upgraded a bit, didn't we? It was Morecambe and Wise had an upgrade on the beds.
Yeah,
I think we had two big double beds
yeah, it's
between us,
great.
which was great. But then when you were in there and you said, why are some of these pictures of like Bristol and Bath or whatever it was on the wall?
Yeah,
But it was Brunel, obviously. It was the
yeah, it was the Clifton
yeah,
Suspension Bridge, which is in Bristol, was in our room, and I was like, what? Like, we're in Uxbridge. What's that for?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, it's a Brunel University, isn't it?"
yeah,
And he designed it. But
yeah.
no, those bridges are built by the Iron Bridge Company, who's Culbrookdale. I don't think the company's there anymore, but that's where the original Iron Bridge is.
Mm.
So they were built by those guys. But just like things like this that you don't know. So and also I can walk out onto the canal and go, right, if you go that way, there's Salisbury Hill, and you can get down to Bradford and Avon and Devizes, and if you go along this way, you get towards Bristol. And and there was people I was like, some of the staff from the hotel I was walking around,
Mm.
and the walk is only like 2.5 miles, but we got to a point where we were behind the railway station, and they were like, "I don't even know where I am," and I was like, "Well, literally a mile away from the hotel, if that, where you were." You know what I mean? And you might have even got off the train and walked out the front of the train station to work. But if you walk out the back of the train station, it looks completely different. But some people don't know it because they would never see it. So it's like, well, obviously it's a hotel with lots of tourists, and there's lots of touristy things to do in Bath. And it's like, yeah, but those touristy things don't show you these parts.
Mm.
So, and it's like not necessarily the historic tour, but the more of the kind of scenic tour of what's immediately on the
Mm.
edge of the center, because Bath city centre is tiny as well. And then obviously when you guys come, you'll get to see all the hills around and stuff like that, and get to view Bath from above and stuff like that. So it's just like, that's kind of what's happening now, is getting more people involved, so we're getting like 20 odd people per walk now, and then getting into like the local businesses and stuff like that, and just getting them to know a little bit more about the area. So
Mm.
then, because I always make the joke now of, when you're doing city breaks and that, once you've seen one cathedral and square and all that, you see them all, haven't you? Which isn't true. But
I,
whenever I go, like, we don't really do city breaks anymore. But whenever me and Sean have done that, we just go. We end up like going outside the city and seeing what else is around, and what hills are around, and what you can see and stuff like that.
mm,
So if
yeah.
people want that, that's what it's for.
Excellent. So this is sort of like a bit of sort of private work to do with Walk Bath, that you're then taking this kind of company out to explore the local area. That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just
Yeah.
happened because there's like a business breakfast thing which goes on there, which I've been to a few of them. They happen once a month, which is run by the hotel, and there's a digital radio station in Bath as well, Radio Bath.
Mm.
And they all do that, and then like lots of people from the local businesses in the local area and that all go and meet
Mm.
each other and all that sort of stuff, and there's presentations and what have you. So I've been going along with that. So I got another guy at the hotel from that, then took them out for a walk, and then now I'm taking them out from all of the hotels for a walk. So it's kind of just happened.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about earlier, wasn't it? You turn up to play, you just keep going and keep going and keep, like this podcast, you keep going and keep doing it, and eventually, you get bigger guests, and not that any of the guests who've been on or any lesser or whatever in the past, but it just gains a momentum. But it doesn't
Mm.
happen overnight. It's like, we've been doing this for 4 years. I've been doing Walk Bath for just over a year,
Mm.
and it's starting to gain a bit of traction now. So it's like it's it's a thing to think about with any training, with anything in life, isn't it? You just got to put your faith in it and keep doing it.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah, I think I sent my thing to Paul, a couple of videos this week for training, and this week is week 140 that I've been training with him, not including kind of holidays and rest weeks and whatnot. So 140 weeks of training. In fact, yeah, because it'll be approaching. I think I started in November, so November will be like 3 years of training with Paul. And I'm so much stronger than I was back then. But it's weird but I never test anything now at the moment. I'm not testing anything, it's just, I'm just doing like today, just before coming on here, I had to do 10 sets of 10 on each side with the 20 kilo kettlebell presses, because he's kind of started me back down again. But every week it's going up. So I think last session with 10 sets of 10 on each side with an 18. Today was 10 sets of 10 each side with a 20. Next week will probably be with the 22 and so on. But just the technique feels better. It feels smoother, not difficult, you know. So, but it's easy because it's easy to forget how far you've come when you when the workouts, I mean, they do obviously, you train with Paul, the workouts do get hard. You know, you hit a point where they're really challenging and really difficult, but 90% of them are not. So you kind of get to the stage where you because it's never really feeling like that difficult, you kind of forget how far you've come. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not struggling most of
Yeah,
the, you know, the main struggle is finding enough time, like we
yeah.
said, you know, to
It's
do.
funny though, because like the whole, it's basically trust the process, isn't it? So I've been
Mm,
listening to a guy called, I think he's called Rory Sutherland, and like a marketing guru type fellow.
mm,
I only discovered him the other day, and I've been watching loads
mm,
of YouTube videos with him on and stuff. But it's like different ways of looking at marketing and stuff. But he said there's a thing that it's called Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure, right? So if you've got like something you're measuring, but then and I mean, like strength training might not really fit into this as well. But like as soon as you start making targets with it, like further down the line, then you try to push the measure rather than
mm,
just measuring it. In the
mm,
measure get like that's the comfort zone expansion thing, isn't it?
mm,
You just keep measuring it, but your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger.
mm.
You know, and he says like about people looking at the wrong metrics. Like he was talking about like making trains quicker or making like routes quicker so people can get from A to B quicker. And he's like, people don't care how long it takes as long as the experience is nice.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So if you enjoy the experience, then it doesn't matter how long it takes. 10 minutes isn't going to matter because the
Yeah,
experience is going to be nice. So
and
it's like
and if you
if you're
get,
training more within comfort and I mean, you got to push yourself and all of that, but you're not dreading every single workout. You're not dreading to doing every single podcast because you're like, we need to make money out of this and we need to do something with it because we're just doing it for the fun of it. And it's like, no, we'll just do it for the fun of it. And all of
mm,
that might or might not happen in the future. It's the same with walk bath. I mean, I want that to be what I do for a living as well, but it's like, it doesn't matter whether that happens or not. I'm going to keep doing it, and then, which means it probably will, which means it definitely will. But if
mm.
I start measuring that, if I start putting targets on that, I stop measuring the fact that it's just like, oh, people turned up this week. That's all that matters, So
It's
you turned
almost
up,
like the
for a
part, the
training
part.
session, Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's almost like the way you just described that. Then is almost like the park bench and the bus bench workouts that Dan John talks about, isn't it? The park bench workout is that you're doing it because you enjoy doing it and you're enjoying the process and you're having fun and you're making progress, but you're not, you're not expecting. And then the bus bench is, you're sitting there waiting for something to happen or expecting
Yeah,
something to happen. And I think the majority of the time has to be, the park bench workout, and not putting so much pressure on yourself, hitting targets or breaking records or whatever. It's just turning up, ticking over, ticking along, doing what you do, and you're going to be making progress as you go.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. So and then it becomes less pressure,
Mm.
you know, because pressure kills you, basically.
Yeah.
Doesn't let's
Yeah.
face it.
Well, there's two things, isn't there? They say sort of pressure creates diamonds, doesn't it? Like there's all
Yes,
these phrases up there, the different things, isn't there? But then again, yeah, but pressure at certain times, I think, yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? Because I think we need a certain amount of pressure or a certain amount of stress to actually get out of bed in the morning or do anything, don't we? Because if there was no, but it's too much pressure, isn't it? Or unnecessary pressure, or I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like testing yourself every now and then is is quite a good thing, but not all the time. And who is it?
Pressure creates diamonds over a long period of time, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that, Pete.
No, it's not like you just come along and go, like Superman.
I was just gonna say
Superman
Superman. Didn't he have the
round
coal? And
three where he goes out and he's like, there's a time, it
yeah,
doesn't happen
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. That wouldn't happen. It would just crumble in your hand, wouldn't it? It's got to be over a very, 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 very
yeah.
long period of time.
Because who were we talking to recently? This was a recent one. Oh, I think it was Claire actually last week when she was talking about people training for high rocks and they constantly are just basically doing high rocks. You know, they're doing the high intensity stuff all the time to test themselves, or they're constantly, or I remember when we talked to Pavlo Cordiaca and we said, and I think I asked him what his 1 rep max deadlift was, and he said, I don't know. He goes,
Yeah.
I don't, I've never tested, I haven't tested it for years. You know, I would never test it in the gym. I'd push myself as hard as I needed to in a competition if a 1 rep max deadlift was in the competition. But most of the time, it's how many times can you lift this sub-maximal weight? You know, so there was no benefit to testing the 1 rep max. So that's interesting. I like that pressure creates diamonds, but over a long time, over a long period of time. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, anyone who says that is a bell end now.
Well, no, it's like the gradual, but I like that, and I like the Superman, because as soon as you said that, I thought of Superman, the film, Christopher Reeve, you know,
Yeah.
crutching the coal and then releasing his grip, and there's a diamond in there.
That wouldn't happen.
No, no. But yeah, it's that. But then, so in that way, it's educated pressure over the long term, which is, it's basically another way of saying that comfort zone expansion, isn't it? Just gradually improving little and often over the long haul, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Tiny little improvements is going to gradually start to, to create that diamond. Yeah.
Because the way I'd think of it is, as the comfort zone, it's like putting an extra layer on the outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Puts more pressure on the center, but over time.
Yeah. No, I like that. Brilliant.
I'm glad that worked out, because I just made that up in my head as we were going. I think it came out better than your sandwich analogy.
Oh, how dare you!
It's not a competition, but I won that one.
You mean the 8-level club sandwich?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Although actually, I quite like that now.
Yeah.
Do you reckon we need to get Claire back on and go, we've had an idea for how you sell high rocks better?
Yeah. The runs of the bread, and then the strength bits, the filling in between. Yeah. Very me. Yeah, we've got a quick shout out. I mean, this will have happened by the time this goes out, but we've got a group of guys doing the I think it's called a nuclear fit kind of. It's kind of like a Spartan race type thing this weekend near Brentwood in Essex. I think it's who is it? Paul Anderson, Kev Brooks, Laura Shanks, Helena, Steve Bush, friend of the show, former guest of the show, and and Carl Easton, Carl as well. So I think however many that is, 6 or 8, I think, of people are doing that this weekend. One of those, Spartan type race, high roxy outdoor ones, which I think is 6. I think it might be 6 1K runs, but all the events are outside, that they've got to do. So no, that'll be so good luck to them.
I'm going to do the Dan John thing, and I'm going to invent
a 10 level high rocks.
No, 9. Better than one better. It's 9 runs.
A 9 level club sandwich.
Yeah, basically, it's better. It's instantly better. So there you go.
It's funny. Do you listen to Dan do you listen to Dan's podcast every week, or occasionally, or never?
No.
Because it's because I'll tell you what, because you don't drive, do you? You don't have a need to drive, So I just have podcasts on in my car. So whenever I'm driving, I listen to a podcast. It just comes on from my phone. So it's always, and even if I'm in the car for 10 or 15 minutes, I just have a little snippet of a podcast. So I'm constantly listening to podcasts. And his one I listen to probably every week, along with I listen to Joe DeFranco's Industrial Strength podcast. I very often listen to like Mark Bell and various other ones. And Dan is always, I love it because he's so, like you just said, people ask him a question and he just sort of says, well, why? You know what I mean? Why do you need to? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Why would I?
That's why I don't really listen to his podcast, because it's like,
I
know what the answer is. I'm not saying I know everything, and I know everything Dan does. I just know what his answer is to most people's questions, because
we've spoke to him so much, haven't we, over the years? But someone will ask about, something extreme, and he'll just be like, well, I think the one I listened to this week, someone was saying, right, I'm 56 or whatever. I train like with strength training, say 6 days a week, and I've started to do like a 7 mile treadmill run, like 4 days a week or something. And he's asking a question, and then Dan just says, I think you're doing too much. He sort of says, at your age, like running 7 miles on a treadmill, like he goes, it would bore me to tears. He sort of says, when you're doing all this, he goes, you need more rest. I think you need put another rest day in, or look at your sleep, look at your food. You're just doing. It's what we always say, isn't it? Just adding more and more and more is not better. Most of the time,
It's the Huberman morning routine.
yeah, they last you till 3 p.m. But often the addition is in the subtraction, isn't it? The getting better is actually from what you take away rather than
Yeah,
keep adding.
absolutely.
Which is interesting.
I mean, I've got that this week actually, right? So last week I didn't finish all my sessions. I didn't do the Friday. I did Monday, Wednesday, and then I didn't do Friday. I just I'd had a migraine on the Thursday, and it was still affecting me on the Friday. I just didn't feel right. And then I did the long walk over the weekend, the 22 miler. So Monday, I picked up the 32 to do some presses, and it just wasn't happening. My body, it was just like, no. And then I did them Wednesday. I did everything Wednesday, presses, pull-ups and everything, 10 sets of 7 on the presses. Great. I've got to catch a flight tomorrow morning on Friday at 1 o'clock. So I've got to leave the house at like 9:30 or something to get the bus and what have you. So I haven't got time to do my training in the morning. So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna pick up the 32 and do as many presses as I can on the right and as many as I can on the left. And that's it. But I've sent it to Paul saying that's what I'm going to do because I just haven't got time. I could get up earlier, but I'm not going to because I'll just miss a session and just do that. And then the week after, I'll just repeat what I was meant to do this week.
Yeah.
Which is also what I was meant to do last week. So I've just repeated things for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
No.
I could try and force it all and I'd just be knackered. I've been tired anyway, which was probably why I got a migraine in the first place.
Yeah.
So, it's not going to help. So I'm just like, I've had as much rest as I can for the last 2 weeks because then I'm away this weekend and then it all calms down after that. But what's happened with me is I've had my trainings had to take a back step because then we're at the Disabled Strongman as well. So that was over a weekend and you're on your feet all day and all that. And it's not like so strenuous.
But that was tiring, wasn't it? I mean,
it's not Monday, strenuous, but it's tiring.
Yeah.
So for me, the thing hasn't been like, how do I fit in all of this rest around my training? It's like, no, I just pare the training back and rest because it's what I need right now. And then next week it should all fall back in again. And then I'll have a good run up to Christmas,
Yeah.
So that's where, and then all I'll do there is just eat a bit less if I'm not training as much. And then once I'm back at it next week, I'll just start eating more again because I need to be able to do the lifts. Because if I stop eating as much and I'm trying to do the lifts, it gets harder. So it's just it's at that point. It's the levers, isn't it? You spoke about before, or the graphic equalizer or whatever. You get up and you go, right, what do I need to up and what do I need to down at the minute? I need more bass, less treble. Sort of thing.
No, it's really, really interesting. And it's good to hear you explaining that because I think something that a lot of people struggle with is the fact that they just do too much or try and do too much, even when it becomes stressful to them, in terms of the way it fits into their whole life. Like we have people who come to the gym who have got a full-time job, they've got families, and they're training, most days, and they're doing loads of training and loads of exercise, and maybe they're not eating as best they could, maybe they're not sleeping very well. And sometimes you just need to say, look, actually the sleep is more important than the training. You know what I mean? It's like, have a couple of days off, rest, recover, And I think I've got better at that recently, or certainly when we spoke to Stevie a couple of weeks ago, and I said I'd trained and I was sore. Just rest, eat more. Just eat more, just rest, let yourself recover. And if you need to take an extra day off, you take an extra day off.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, some people struggle with that, but I think it's you get to a certain age or a certain stage, and then you need to make those decisions. You don't just follow the program mindlessly because it's the program. You try to follow the program 90% of the time, obviously, but sometimes if you're absolutely shattered and, like you say, you just don't have it in you that day, just have a rest day, or you know half the volume, or bring the weight down, or whatever. But you don't have to, because that's when well, I speak to clients about this. That's when you'll end up hurting yourself, and picking up
Absolutely.
it will set you back weeks or months. So you're better off either having an extra rest day, or half the volume, reduce the weight, something, and just do something if you want to do something, or just rest is important. Cool. Excellent. Well, that was good catch up there. And I just want to quickly remind people, because we've been reading these reviews out from Apple Podcasts, and we've read out three, and three people haven't got back to me yet about what they want in terms of t-shirts, hoodies, sent out to them for their reviews. So Ryan Jones, 80, you need to get back to me. Ali Chessel, you need to get back to me. And Ian underscore KB North, which I presume is Kettlebell North. You need to get back to me as well. Yeah. So if you can comment or send us a message and let us know your postal address, your delivery address. And if you go onto the Health Oddity Instagram, go into the link tree, go into the merch, and look and decide, whether you want a t-shirt, hoodie, what size, what color, that sort of thing, and let me know your postal address, and I'll get them sent out to you ASAP. Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, thanks for that, Pete. That was good.
Well, thank you. It was. Yes.
And
We'll
hopefully
well, in another 6 weeks, we'll have another analogy off. So get
we'll have
thinking.
another. Well, I like that though. What the coal turning into diamonds, and the club sandwich
Yep.
are the two today. Right. Okay.
Brilliant.
Okay, so yeah, I have sent an email out to Jan Todd as well, which is great. So hopefully, Jan Todd, she's in Texas, will get back to us. And obviously, like I say, we are in the process at the moment of sorting out Mark Sisson, and I've got my list of 30 to 40 people as well. So we will probably have a guest with us next week. We just need to confirm that. That will be episode 217. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially if you are on Apple Podcasts. And if you have not given us a subscribe on YouTube, please go and do that as well, because that will help, because every episode is available on YouTube to watch or listen on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. There's also obviously healthoddity.com, which has got all of the episodes. They naturally go on there. Do you have to load them on every week yourself, Pete?
I have to do a little jiggery pokery, because
little...
you can, there is a way to load them up. So they load up themselves, but then I have to doctor it a little bit to make it look good. Or, well, make it look like it looks anyway. But because I don't know how to do it like fully automatically.
Automated. Yeah.
But that's fine. When we get our social media type
Yes.
person, there's anyone out there who wants to do it for free, yeah, well, they'll do it.
They can do all of that. No, brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, healthoddity.com's got everything. But obviously, most of you, if you're listening or watching now, you're listening or watching now on the platform that you favor and that you want to do. Yeah. So continue doing that for us. That's fantastic. So we will see you next week, guys, for episode 217. Until then, bye-bye.